For this assignment, I have interviewed 3 people who currently live in Singapore, one of which has immigrated here from India around 5 or 6 years ago. Another interviewee is also of Indian heritage, but she was born in Singapore and has lived here for her whole life. The last person interviewed has also lived in Singapore for his entire life, but is of Chinese ancestry. Most of their views on Singapore were fairly similar, but as they were of different backgrounds, some of their ideas of the Singaporean culture had a few differences. Each individual believed that the culture in Singapore is a combination of multiple other cultures combined to make a separate and unique culture for Singapore. When asked which of these cultures influenced and affected the culture of Singapore the most, the individual of Chinese heritage said that the Chinese culture was a big contributor to the culture of Singapore, as many people here speak Mandarin as their first language, although English is the nationally established language of the country. This individual also explained that along with Chinese culture, Indian and Malaysian cultures are very prevalent as well. To follow up, the Singaporean with an Indian background explained that although there was a specific Singaporean culture that they all followed and practiced, there were also separate Indian practices that she took part in, as her family brought her up in an Indian home while they lived in Singapore. She explained that the Singaporean education system also encouraged the growth of these outside cultures by requiring students to take a second language in school. This second language could have been Tamil, Malay, or Mandarin. Singaporean culture has taken aspects of culture from India, China, and Malaysia and has created its own unique culture. When asked to describe their country in 3 words or less, each interviewee said something along the lines of safe, organized, or eco-friendly. Judging by these answers and seeing the way people interact with their surroundings around the city, I would guess that people in Singapore have particularly high risk aversion, meaning that they don't enjoy risk very much, and also have a high uncertainty avoidance. Since these individuals live in a country with very many rules and regulations, they have become accustomed to knowing exactly what to expect after every decision, so they are not likely to do anything that will not have a safe or predictable outcome. These individuals also pointed to the importance of keeping the environment clean in Singapore. The culture around them condemns littering, gum chewing, or any other practices that would be bad for the cleanliness of the environment around them. From these answers, I can tell that cleanliness, safety, and inclusivity are core values to Singaporean culture and contribute to the organization of their society. Singaporeans are very proud of the importance of organization in their culture and believe that this sets them apart from other countries. Although the individuals I interviewed did rave about the safety of Singapore, one even commenting that Singapore was so safe it was almost boring, they all had the same phrase to offer, that low crime doesn't mean no crime, once again pointing to the fact that Singapore is a very low-risk society and highly values safety, to the point that even with their low crime rate, they are still not feeling extremely safe. In addition to being proud of the organization in their culture, Singaporeans are also very interested in improving their country and their culture. When asked what they would improve about Singapore, the woman who moved here from India said that she would improve nothing other than the opportunities for education available in Singapore. The education system here is fairly similar to that of America, but there are less primary schools that are supported by the government. Many residents in Singapore pay for their child's primary school education per month. This interviewee wanted to improve the education system so that better schools would be available at a lower cost. The lifelong resident of Singapore explained that there were always ways to improve. She stated that even though Singapore was the most advanced country among its neighbors, there was always room for improvement. She listed off a new subway station, new construction developments, new tourism spots, and more improvements that Singapore was already starting to work on. She stated that even though their neighboring countries would have to work for a long time to reach Singapore's current level of advancement, Singaporeans had to work to keep their country as advanced as possible. From the 3 interviews, I can gather that the culture of Singapore is very proud of the accomplishments of the country, but is always looking to go one step further. I believe that due to the high uncertainty avoidance and low risk tolerance in Singapore, the culture will remain relatively the same. But due to the need for improvement, there may be a few small changes in the mainstream culture in Singapore. Changes to this culture would probably involve improving the efficiency at which Singaporeans work, travel, and live their day-to-day lives, as well as improving Singapore's relationship with the outside world. Other than those few improvements, however, I do not think that the Singaporean culture will drastically change anytime soon. Overall, the 3 interviews with Singaporean natives taught me that the culture in Singapore is made up of mainly 3 different cultures: Chinese, Malay, and Indian. I also learned that Singaporeans are risk-averse and have low uncertainty tolerance, contributing to the importance of safety and organization in their society. Lastly, I learned that Singaporeans are very proud of the progress they have made as a country, but are very competitive in regards to the advancements they have made, and want to be sure that they remain one of the most advanced countries in the area.